Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about Henry VIII and his life. You know, one of the most recognised monarchs in history, the guy that had 6 wives, the king that split from the Pope, the list could go on. Henry was the second son of King Henry VII and Elizabeth of York. He was born on the 8th of June 1491 and would not actually become the king if history happened the other way. Well, you see, Henry had an older brother called Arthur that was next in line to the throne after their father. When a king dies, the crown goes to the eldest son who isn't dead. Henry's brother died in 1502 from illness, which was common at the time, making Henry the heir to the English throne. Henry also had an elder sister, Margaret, but due to the succession rules, females were ignored as the monarch's oldest son had the priority to the throne. In fact, this rule was still in effect till 2013, when changes finally happened due to the rules of succession to the British throne. Henry VIII was brought up by his grandmother in an extremely religious environment. Henry was never meant to be a king since Arthur, his brother, was older than him, so his father wanted him to be involved with the church instead. Under his grandmother, Henry would attend up to 6 masses a day and would learn to write religious essays. Henry was being prepared to lead a holy life until his brother, Arthur, dies in 1502, and Henry would now become the next in the line to the throne. But keep in mind that Henry was not prepared whatsoever for this duty, as he had no preparation of being a king. His father took him under his wings and was preparing Henry to be the next king of England. Henry's father also wanted him to marry Arthur's wife, Catherine of Aragon. Since Arthur died, she was now a widow, and Henry's father was keen on keeping a relationship with her due to her links with Spain. Back in those times, monarchs would marry themselves and their children to other powerful figures in order to maintain power, and not because of love. The year 1509 came about, and Henry VII passed away, making Henry VIII the King of England. The first what he wanted to do is gain the blessing of the Pope in his marriage with Catherine of Aragon. This was because Henry was breaking the rules of Catholicism. Leviticus chapter 20 verse 21 stated that, "If a man shall take his brother's wife, it is an unclean thing, and they shall be childless." Henry was aware of this since he spent much of his time studying the Bible. The Pope eventually gave his blessing on the marriage. Catherine was 6 years older than Henry. Nice. Time went on, and in 1512, big man Henry decided to invade France. Henry wanted to prove himself a strong and worthy king of England, so he had to show off by capturing land and defeating someone. In the summer of 1513, after the Battle of the Spurs, Henry only managed to capture 2 small French towns, a couple of miles inwards from Calais. For the next 12 years, he would keep trying to take over France. By 1525, he ran out of money, and so he was forced to make peace with the French. By that time, his marriage was falling apart. Catherine had given birth to 5 children, where only 1 survived, and her name was Mary, that later became the Queen of England in 1553. Catherine failed to provide Henry with a male heir to the throne, and the fact now remembered that he broke the rules of the Bible and now he was being punished for it. But Henry just couldn't give one at this point about his marriage, and so he fell in love with another woman called Anne Boleyn. Being a smart one that she was, Anne said, "No mate, you're not getting a smash before the marriage. God's plan." Well, Henry had to think of possible ways to end his marriage so Anne would let him smash. At this point, Henry was like, "Hey Wolsey, talk to the Pope and get him to change his mind about that blessing that he gave me when I married Catherine. Cheers." Thomas Wolsey was basically Henry's right-hand man that did Henry's work for him. He was powerful within the state and the church, and he held the position of Lord Chancellor under Henry VIII. After 2 years and the issue not being resolved, Henry decided to put Wolsey on trial for sabotaging him by slowing down the process of annulling his marriage. Wolsey would pretty much die after his capital sentence, but he died due to illness before, so he got Henry there. Anne Boleyn, still somehow helpful to the king, did much work on proving and convincing that Henry was at the same time the head of the state and the church. This meant that he could grant himself a divorce without being a pope. And guess what? It worked somehow. But I can't blame Anne though. I'd too rather be divorced from this fat cunt rather than be murdered by his men. In 1531, Henry had called the parliament announcing that England's ties with Rome would be gone. Henry would now be the head of the church in England. Henry then granted himself the divorce, and in 1533, Anne Boleyn was crowned the Queen of England. Months later, she gave birth, another daughter, and not the son he wanted. Within the next 3 years, she would be beheaded. RIP. Jane Seymour came next, aka the wife number 3, and actually gave birth to a son, Edward, in 1537. By then, Henry's cash was gone, and he had to refill it. Thomas Cromwell, Henry's Lord Chancellor, that replaced Thomas Wolsey, came and said, "If you're in control of the church, then just still take what's yours from them." Henry agreed, beginning the dissolution of the monasteries. Protestant religion was now being entrenched into England harder than ever before. Fast forward many events into 1537, Wife number 3 died and wife number 4 came. Anne of Cleves. Remember how I said that people married out of power? Yeah, same here kids. She was German and Protestant. This marriage was organised by Thomas Cromwell. Upon realising how ugly Anne was, he got Cromwell beheaded. RIP. Wife 5 came next, Catherine Howard, that got charged for committing adultery. She too got beheaded. RIP. 1543, next marriage happened, wife number 6 aka Catherine Parr. Well, lucky her because she survived by outliving the fat man. Not RIP. Not much now happens to Henry and his life. 1543, he decides to lead an invasion into Scotland. After winning it, Spain and France were planning behind Henry's back. As Henry became older and fatter, he was being carried around his own palace in a bloody cart. He finally dies in 1547, declaring on his deathbed that he was always a true faithful Catholic. RIP. This was Down to Earth and thank you for watching. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you all in the next video.